Coming up on our expedition of engineering disasters. A sinking skyscraper in downtown San Francisco.
I got so upset and nervous that I had to move out.
A biblical build that's failing to hold back the tide.
Disaster-wise, on a scale from 1 to 10, this was off the charts.
A breathtaking bridge becomes a crossing catastrophe.
Walking becomes very dangerous. You can fall down very easily.
And a German town in danger of going underground.
The building starts to break in the sinkhole. That was really terrifying.
With big builds, even the smallest mistake can be a huge disaster. From miscalculations to misunderstandings. These are the massive engineering mistakes that only an expert can hope to fix. Construction is all about measuring twice and cutting just once. But sometimes, despite the double checking, things don't quite go according to plan. Like this first construction calamity in San Francisco. And a luxury tower where residents were getting a distinct sinking feeling.
He rolled this marble 10 feet toward me. The marble slowed to a stop, turned around, and rolled back. We were flabbergasted.
Even though the Earth is not flat, an apartment's floor should be. Something weird is clearly going on. San Francisco, the city famous for the Golden Gate Bridge, its streetcars and winding roads.
When you think of San Francisco, you might think of the birthplace of the tech revolution, its beaches, or its trendy neighborhoods, but this city also has some amazing feats of engineering.
Manhattan is about looking up. San Francisco is about looking out.
And one of the best places to see this spectacular view is the Millennium Tower. 58 stories of prime West Coast real estate. Basic apartments sold for around $2 million, with the penthouse commanding a cool $13 million. Former resident Frank Jernigan bought a 50th floor apartment in 2011.
There were so many things about it that were just over the top. I'd never seen a building like that before. The view from the 50th floor was absolutely spectacular. We could see all 4 tiers of the Bay Bridge all the way across the bay. It was like living in a fine hotel. Marble floors, marble walls. Everything was just top quality. Everything was just done to perfection.
Standing nearly 200 meters high, it was the tallest residential building west of the Mississippi.
When we moved in, I felt like this was our dream place, and we would be here for the rest of our lives.
But Frank Jernigan's dream soon turned to nightmares. Shortly after construction was completed, developers uncovered seismic problems with the super swanky skyscraper.
By the time the building was finished building, it had sunk over 8 inches, and it had been expected to sink only 4 to 6 inches over the entire life of the building. So they knew there was a problem.
In the decade after its 2008 completion, the sinking more than doubled.
Experts estimate that the tower has sunk 17 inches. That's more than 40 centimeters, and it's predicted that the tower will continue to sink 2 inches or 5 centimeters each year.
And this sinking skyscraper shows no signs of slowing down.
So, one of San Francisco's tallest residential buildings was sinking. The one place you'd want to get it right is here, in an active earthquake zone.
With the tower sinking a lot more than was initially predicted, experts wondered whether the foundation wasn't strong enough. The tower sits on a giant reinforced concrete slab, which rests on around 900 long steel rods called friction piles. However, the piles only go down around 25 meters, less than halfway to the solid bedrock 60 meters underground. But that alone shouldn't be a problem, as engineer Gerald Cawthon explains.
The pile is actually held up by the sand or the dirt around the outside of the pile. Now at first, it'll go down pretty easy. The pile driver starts to hit them, and as the pile driver hits them, it gets harder and harder to go down. Now it's getting harder. I'm not going as far every time I hit it. So why does it get harder to push it down in the ground? Well, that's what friction is all about. It is the sticking power between the soil around the pile and the steel pile itself is what is holding that pile up. Now it's virtually stopped.
Driving piles into the sand is like putting up a beach umbrella. In shallow sand, it wobbles, but the deeper you push it, the more stable it becomes. More sand equals more friction. The Millennium Tower is just this on a much bigger scale.
Dozens of other towers in the area have similar foundations without sinking. It seems the Millennium Tower has a much weightier problem. Mid-design, a main building material changed from steel to concrete. Concrete was cheaper than steel, but double the weight.
Somewhere down the line, someone decided to switch from steel to concrete.
So another possible factor was that with the change in materials, the building had become heavier than planned. And if a sinking skyscraper sounds bad, as horrified residents discovered in 2016, this tower wasn't just sinking, but tilting too. San Francisco, famous for its stunning bay views, but the residents of the Millennium Tower were more concerned by what was going on inside.
So we took out this marble, and I said, well, why don't I video it? And I just pulled out my phone, and I said, okay, roll the marble toward me. And he rolled it about 10 feet toward me. The marble slowed to a stop, turned around, and rolled back, picked up speed as it passed him, and then curved around toward the northwest, the direction of the lean. We were flabbergasted. We just couldn't believe that there was an actual lean that we could detect in that way.
We all know that skyscrapers aren't meant to lean. There is something clearly wrong here.
I got so upset and nervous that I had to move out. It's emotional for me even today because this was going to be our dream home for the rest of our lives. And so to finally face the day where we realized we had to leave, we went online, found an apartment that was furnished, packed our bags, and left in 24 hours.
The tilt is up to 36 centimeters off kilter, which may not sound like a lot, but in an active earthquake zone, any imbalance could prove disastrous. The root of the problem could go deeper than the foundation. The very ground beneath the tower isn't as solid as it looks. Geologist Dr. Ray Sullivan is on the streets of San Francisco to explain.
We're in an area of filled land. This was a marshland area. If you stood here in 1849, we would be surrounded by mudflats, ravines, creeks. This whole area had to be filled.
Around 170 years ago, the tower's location was swampland. As San Francisco grew, rock, sand, and trash were used to build out the land, creating a far from solid foundation.
We have here 2 or 3 storied structures. They're on filled land and therefore subject to a certain amount of settlement. And if you look to my right here, you can see that the door is 3 or 4 feet below us here. This is due to subsidence. If you look to the east of us, you can see the Millennium Tower, which is also on fill.
As unpredictable as the ground may be, that might not be the only reason the building is tilting and sinking. Some speculate that a nearby construction project is to blame. The Transbay Transit Center broke ground soon after the tower was completed. The Millennium developers think that the removal of groundwater from the site may have caused the dramatic drop.
Construction sites across the globe use dewatering to make drier conditions for them to work in. The problem is this can upset the local water table, at least temporarily.
As soon as the work next door was over, the groundwater table came back to its previous level. And yet the building is continuing to settle up today, even though that work was done years ago. It's been 4 years since that work was completed, but the settling is completed. So the settling went on before there was any excavation. It went on after the construction was finished next door. I do not personally think that the next door work had anything to do with this.
While the cause of the problem is up for debate, the building's residents are focused on finding a solution.
Everybody has their opinion about what is going to happen in the future. Some people are confident that it will be fixed.
Is there any way they can stop the tower from sinking?
They've talked about freezing the ground. Freezing the ground would mean you'd keep the ground under that building as ice, frozen as ice in perpetuity. It would be forever. And so that is a very expensive thing to do.
With deep freeze seeming unlikely, experts search for other ways to stop the sinking.
Now, there have been people who've talked about lopping off 20 stories off the top. I think it may have been the New York Times that made that solution. Was that facetious? Maybe. But if none of this other works, they're going to have to do something.
These solutions range from wacky to downright ridiculous. Is there any way forward that might actually be workable?
The drilling rigs beside the tower hint at a possible answer. The best guess at the solution is the addition of longer piles, this time going down as far as the bedrock. It won't be quick or cheap, with estimated costs in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Clearly, if we thought it was going to be fixed anytime soon, we would have stayed, but I'm afraid we lost faith in that.
It does seem like the Millennium Tower's problems are not going away anytime soon. But I hope, for the sakes of the residents, that they actually do come up with some kind of solution so they can start enjoying living in one of the greatest apartment blocks in the US.
With some construction catastrophes, the errors are blindingly obvious, even when they're hidden at the bottom of the sea. For this blunder, we head to Venice, Italy, where this ancient city is struggling to keep its head above water.
This engineering project gives me a sinking feeling.
It's an engineering catastrophe on an unprecedented level.
Disaster-wise, on a scale from 1 to 10, this was off the charts.
An underwater construction project that's struggling to stay afloat.
Unless something is done, Venice is in trouble.
Venice, Italy. This unique and iconic city was founded in the 5th century and lies on more than 100 islands in the Venetian lagoon. Environmental scientist Jane DeMosto has lived here for over 20 years.
Venice is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Venice has an architectural style that you can't find anywhere else in the world.
Built centuries ago, Venice is an engineering marvel. The foundations of it were built using wooden piles in marsh and sand, yet it still stands today as one of the world's most iconic cities.
Venice was built on millions of closely spaced wooden poles, 18 meters in length, hammered through soft mud into the solid clay below. Protected from oxygen, the wood doesn't rot, and in fact, thanks to the mineral-rich waters, becomes petrified or hard like stone. The foundation might be solid, but there's no getting away from Venice's low-lying and wet location.
Venice is on the ocean, and with these huge tidal surges and rising sea levels, it's a recipe for disaster.
Between autumn and spring, Venice experiences abnormally high tides, known as the acqua alta. These tides are made worse by strong seasonal winds. The impact can be devastating, something residents like engineer Vincenzo Di Tella know all too well.
When there is this tide, the Venice is completely flooded. So it's not possible for the normal activity. It's only possible to go with boats inside the river, but you cannot go on the street.
Tidal surges have long been a problem for Venice, but in 1966, it had the worst flood in recorded history, and the government finally decided something has to be done.
The Italian government pledged a solution, but it wasn't until the 1980s that the Mose project was conceived. Mose was named after the Old Testament prophet Moses, and like its namesake, the plan was to hold back the waters that were threatening to engulf Venice.
In the 1980s then, the Italian government began to prototype a tidal barrier that could rise when it was most needed when there were the largest tidal surges.
Mose would be an engineering project on a biblical scale.
They use that term still because of its reference to Moses, who parted the water, as though this engineering project is going to have the same kind of universal powers to defeat the physical forces of the world.
After decades of discussion, design, and prototyping, in 2003, the go-ahead to build the barrier was finally given. The aim of this ambitious project was to divide the Venetian lagoon from the Adriatic Sea by placing barriers across 3 inlets. A total of 78 mobile gates needed to be laid at the bottom of the seabed. Each one is 28 meters long, 20 meters wide, and weighs a colossal 300 tons.
Mose consists of a series of gates that lie flat on the seabed, and they're hinged at one end. And to activate them, air is pumped into the gates, and through the principle of buoyancy, the gates rise up, providing a barrier between the Venetian lagoon and the Adriatic Sea.
The design was revolutionary and would allow authorities to open and close the sea gates to cope with tidal surges of up to 2.7 meters. At least that was the plan. But to match the biblical scale of this project, the catalog of catastrophes has been almighty as well, becoming a joke amongst Venetians.
So what they didn't think about was that when the barrier's up, tidal forces can push sand and silt underneath the barrier, so it can't sink back down properly.
Engineers realized that when the gates were raised, sand would settle in the trenches, which meant that when the gates were shut, they couldn't close properly. The materials used in the construction of the barrier have already shown significant signs of wear.
Another really difficult problem is corrosion. The gates that were installed underwater are already showing huge signs of corrosion, and gates that haven't even been put in yet, that are on the land, are starting to rust. So this is going to render them much, much weaker and can lead to huge mechanical failures in the future.
The barriers are made out of these big metal panels, and the paint is being corroded. That's also something that, you know, is a well-known feature of salty water.
The gates are corroding, even the replacement gates are corroding. Clearly they chose materials that just couldn't withstand salt water and sea air.
To add insult to injury, a tiny Venetian resident is causing huge extra problems.
What they didn't also think about was the environment at the bottom of the sea. There's lots of mussels and all sorts of creatures down there, and they start to live on the brackets and the hinges, meaning that sometimes these hinges are inoperable.
There was some issue with the hinges, and lo and behold, there were mussels growing on the hinges.
And the only way to deal with that is to have divers go down and literally scrape them off, which just seems ridiculous.
All these massive oversights have Venetians up in arms.
They're still trying to finish building that was planned in the 80s and was supposed to be finished in 2011. And they recently said that the 31st of December due date might not be possible.
With no end in sight, this project also comes with a hefty and ever-growing price tag. Latest estimates take the budget to a whopping 5 billion euros, 3 times the original estimate.
It's already cost billions and it's not even finished, and to maintain it is going to cost 80 million euros a year. Surely someone knew from the start that this was not a good idea.
The Venice flood barrier is this ancient city's only hope against rising sea levels. But with so many problems, it appears that the focus of this project has not been on the engineering. As the lagoon slowly rises, so does the cost to fix it, while confidence in this flawed flood defense is falling. Residents like journalist Alberto Vitucci think money that continues to be spent on the project could potentially help the city of Venice in other ways.
Because the Moses, the great work, cannot save, for instance, San Mark Place, because Moses is only for high tides, not medium or regular tides. And San Marco is the lowest place in the city of Venice.
As it stands, the Mose project is set to proceed, but the reality of operating this barrier in the long term could be more trouble than it's worth.
A lot of money spent only for this work was a real disaster for Venice, because every year the city of Venice needs a lot of money for maintenance. Venice is a particular city. It lives in the water, but they thought only about Mose.
With the solution to the issues far from certain, it seems the Mose project has done a better job at dividing opinion than parting the sea.
This project has been going on for years, has been costing billions, and still has a lot of work left to go. But the tide is coming, and if Venice is to be saved, something must be done.
Many Venetians maybe thought that the Moses could stop the high number of tides. But now, looking at the works, the lates, the money, the problems, Venetians, I think they have enough of this project.
Let's hope the Italians come up with an engineering solution that will protect this iconic city.
Sometimes, the bigger the construction project, the greater the potential risk. And when it comes to groundbreaking builds, the last thing anyone needs is a monumental slip-up. For this next building catastrophe, we're off to northern Spain and a project known as the Zubizarreta, or White Bridge.
Walking becomes very dangerous. You can fall down very easily.
An ambitious design that's become a construction calamity.
It's so obvious. They should have guessed that would happen.
Sí, yo me resbalaba ahí y me cayó. Era, digamos, peligroso.
A stunning glass-floored spectacle that turned into a complete cover-up.
You can clearly see that floor is black. Something is wrong with that picture.
It's supposed to be a dazzling glass icon, but a basic blunder made a real mess of that.
Bilbao is northern Spain's tourist mecca.
I was in Bilbao for a week, and it was a really beautiful city. It's got this sense of art, these very dramatic big structures like the Zubizarreta.
Not so long ago, it was a very different story, according to local architect Bert Nisch.
Bilbao was a run-down industrial area in the 70s, 80s, a really polluted industrial city.
With heavy industry in decline, Bilbao needed reinventing and turned to culture with a trio of landmark projects.
There was a big reformation process starting. They made a big master plan. 1990, for example, the Guggenheim Museum, the competition was held. It was a large process, and well, this is what you have today, yeah, a very beautiful, wealthy city. When Bilbao get in all the media, then it was always like the city of arts, the city of design, and the first three projects that always have been mentioned were the Guggenheim Museum, of course, the metro system by Norman Foster, and a Calatrava Bridge, the Zubizuri, which means in Basque, the White Bridge.
The 76-meter-long steel and glass Zubizuri Bridge was key to Bilbao's transformation. Its sweeping white lines and sheer glass floor were designed to celebrate the port's nautical heritage and unite the city.
Bilbao was a city of two halves. On the one side of the river, the ancient center, and the other, industrial and run-down working-class neighborhoods. Designers hoped that connecting the two halves would reinvigorate the city.
Fermin Lopez worked for the company that financed the bridge.
Este puente ha sido una solución fantástica para conectar Bilbao Centro con uno de los barrios de Bilbao. Cuando no existía, la conexión era muy complicada.
The Zubizuri opened in 1997, but this bridge designed to unite a city was in danger of bringing most of its residents to their knees. It was meant to be a dazzling display of cutting-edge design, but soon after it opened, this bridge hit troubled waters.
Era muy resbaladizo, con lo cual con mal tiempo, con lluvia, hielo, era peligroso.
He pasado mucho tiempo resbalándome y pasándomelo mal porque tenía miedo a caerme y he visto caerse a gente también.
O sea, yo entiendo que resbalaba mucha gente, se caía. Yo cuando está mojado alguna vez me he resbalado, pero podrían haber puesto algo más disimulado, la verdad.
People were clearly struggling to get across the bridge without falling. Material scientist Gustavo Schwartz explains the problem.
Okay, here we are at the Zubizuri Bridge, which has a lovely design. But one of the problems of the bridge is the floor. I mean, the floor is made basically of glass. And the problem with the glass is that it becomes very slippery when wet. Glass surface is not safe to walk on when wet.
From a design point of view, I can really see what they were going for. The glass tiles would look incredible, but it's not the best choice for a sloping floor, especially when you consider Bilbao's weather, when it rains for 4 months of the year.
The mystery isn't why the glass plates were failing, it's why the architect chose to put glass flooring to begin with. We know this is slippery.
The problem with glass is its lack of friction. Friction is the resistance between two surfaces. It's what keeps you upright on a path. Your shoe and the rough ground grip each other. A glass floor is much smoother and much harder to grip. Throw in a slope and rainwater, and you have one hazardous bridge. Gustavo uses a slip alert to measure how slippery the original glass bridge floor is.
So we have a small trolley here. So we are going to slide the trolley through the surface, okay? And we are going to check how far the trolley is going. I mean, the longer it rolls along, the more slippery the surface is.
The machine simulates a slip. The higher the reading, the more dangerous the surface. Anything over 180 indicates a high risk of falling.
Oh, this is really slippery. The trolley is giving us 205. This is a very high value. We are in the most dangerous region. And with this value, one of every 2 people is going to fall down.
That's crazy. This is a classic example of style over substance.
Da fe de que como monumento, como proyecto, es magnífico. La pena es que no se ha hecho el suelo adecuado para el clima de Bilbao.
In pushing the boundaries of design, the architect has sometimes found himself on the very limits of engineering possibility. From troublesome tiles on the Valencia Opera House to the budget and schedule-stretching World Trade Center station. There was even another slippery bridge over the Grand Canal in Venice.
Architects, yes, they've got to build something that looks good, but they've also got to build something that works.
It was clear the city couldn't leave the bridge as a waterslide.
The town hall was trying to solve these problems with a lot of different ideas to treat the glass with some acids or sanding or printing something on it or gluing something on it.
In the end, the solution was far from stylish.
There was no good solution for it. Yeah, though the bridge remains very slippery, and at the end they decided to put a plastic carpet on top.
In 2011, the decision was made to cover the entire surface with black mats. Local journalist Jose Marie Riveriego covered the story.
El ayuntamiento se vio con fuerza y esta idea vino por un antiguo colaborador del Ayuntamiento de Bilbao, el director de Bilbao Arte, Javier Riaño, y Riaño, que es artista, en un viaje en Nueva York, simplemente se fijó que en una tienda de Apple, cerca de Central Park, pues tenían puesto una alfombra de estas características en la entrada para evitar que la gente resbalara y se pudiera secar los zapatos y que no resbalara cuando había lluvia.
Despite their simplicity, Gustavo's gizmo reveals how much safer the mats are.
We put the trolley back here and see what happens. We got a value of 126. This is much safer than on the glass, definitely.
The mats are ugly and have to be replaced every 2 years. But at least the residents and tourists can stay on their feet when they cross the bridge.
So, it's a sensible solution, but not likely to win any design awards.
Por fuera sí, me parece muy bonito, pero la alfombra que le han puesto negra pues es horrorosa, la verdad.
Y bueno, aunque no es muy bonito, pero bueno, es una alfombra negra en vez de roja, negra.
Practical as the mats may be, glass manufacturing expert Nuria Galbe believes there's a much clearer option.
This non-slip glass is rated in the highest standards. It's a glass suited for heavy use. It's engraved by acid etching. It has a design that works in all directions. And it also is scratch resistant thanks to the acid etching processing. If they had used this glass instead of covering with this mat, the bridge could show the brightness, the lightness, and the beauty of the bridge.
Using etched glass is a viable solution, and that would stop a lot of the slipperiness problem.
There is no denying that bridge is utterly beautiful. And I'm totally for pushing boundaries. But sometimes you do just have to sit back, hold your hands up and go, yep, this time something has gone wrong.
Construction catastrophes can sometimes happen when engineers ignore what's staring them straight in the face. And occasionally, the disaster lies directly beneath their feet. For this next engineering escapade, we're off to Germany. In February 2016, this sleepy town's tranquility was shattered.
It was really scary and frightening.
Ich dachte, oh my God. Oh, it was quite spectacular.
Residents woke up to a supersized sinkhole.
What on earth could have caused this massive hole?
The vast crater rocked this tranquil town. but it shouldn't have been completely surprising. The city of Nordhausen is more than 1,000 years old. It's a peaceful place, most of the time. Just ask local journalist Angelo Glashagel.
We are here in the very middle of Germany, at the edges of the Harz Mountains, in a very small, quiet town. But 2 years ago, we saw quite a buzz because of what happened just behind me.
In February 2016, these small town council buildings were disappearing into the ground before shocked workers' very eyes. Council Director Gunnar Reuter was one of the first on the scene.
Ich lag schön auf der Couch nach getaner Arbeit und dann wurden wir angerufen und sagen, Herr Reuter, kommen Sie ganz schnell hier zum Salzergraben. Hier drohen Fahrzeuge einzustürzen. Ja, habe meine Kollegin Jessica angerufen und wir sind dann sofort hier runter und da war schon ein Meer aus blauen Lichtern, alles Feuerwehrfahrzeuge, die Polizei war da, hat Amtshilfe angeboten.
It was a Friday evening and I got a call from my boss and he said, oh, come with me, there is something happening. So we went there in the evening and there were already a lot of people and there were a small little break down in the earth and the sinkhole was very small in the beginning. The earth opened very suddenly. It got bigger pretty fast and there was a lot of water and that makes a lot of sound.
It was quite a spectacle. We had, well, a small catastrophe on our hands.
A massive sinkhole was opening up between two buildings.
Throughout the evening, the sinkhole got bigger and bigger again. And then the building starts to break in the sinkhole. That was really terrifying.
Luckily, the offices were closed for the night.
We all were very glad that nobody had hurt. So nobody was there in the building because it was in the evening and the night.
When sinkholes happen, they happen fast, without warning. It must have been utterly terrifying to stand there and see this building collapse right into the earth.
There's clearly something going on beneath the ground.
Nordhausen, the sleepy town in Germany that in 2016 woke up to the nightmare of a supersized sinkhole. And as the dust settled, people wanted an explanation. The answer seemed obvious. The hills around Nordhausen are sinkhole central. Geologist Thomas Kammerer was well aware of the surrounding situation.
This part of Germany is very susceptible to sinkholes. We have more than 10,000 registered cases of sinkholes in this state. There are thousands of sinkholes of various sizes. Sometimes they are just inconspicuous small depressions, sometimes they are large craters.
With 10,000 sinkholes, this area must look like Swiss cheese. There's clearly something going on underground.
The problem is this rock, anhydrite, which means without water, and it's thirsty like a sponge. When anhydrite contacts groundwater, it will absorb the water and turn into this, gypsum. Unfortunately, gypsum is soluble and will dissolve away, leaving a space underneath the ground.
The problem can be traced back to a seam of anhydrite beneath the hills around Nordhausen. As groundwater seeps into the anhydrite, it turns into gypsum, which then dissolves, forming caves. When the roofs get too thin, they collapse, creating the region's many sinkholes.
Now, this is a particularly good example because we can see both the sinkhole and we can look into the subsurface cave system that is responsible for its formation.
With sinkholes everywhere, one obvious solution is to build nowhere near them. Sven Schmidt's engineering team has the job of investigating patterns in the area.
Hier auf diesem relativ kleinen Fläche 12.000 Erdfälle schon registriert habe. In Nordhausen haben wir in den nördlichen Zechsteinsaum, in dem sehr viele Erdfälle auftreten. Und südlich davon Dort ist es so, dass nur sehr wenige Erdfälle auftreten. Und das sieht man auch hier bei dem Erdfall in Nordhausen, dass der eigentlich sehr alleine da in dem Flusstal und in der Region liegt.
Nothing like that has ever happened this close to the town before. We have seen similar things, but not this close to home.
It's normal that we have sinkholes in our area, but they are in the forest maybe, so nobody lived there, and so no houses are breaking down in the sinkhole.
Town planners know that the sinkholes in this area exist along a certain cluster, but the giant sinkhole under Nordhausen was not located anywhere near that, so presumably it's an anomaly, but not quite.
Just 6 years prior, there was another sinkhole at exactly almost the same spot, and it swallowed up a truck.
Wait, there had been a sinkhole in that exact spot in the past?
Was wir noch zur Erklärung vielleicht vortragen müssen, ist, dieses Gebäude und dieses Gebäude, die waren bis zum Jahr 2014 ein einheitliches Gebäude. Und im Jahr 2010 hat sich schon mal ein kleiner Erdfall aufgetan. Der war gab es einen kleinen Krater, 10 Meter. War ein LKW reingefallen, eine Bohrung gebracht von 40 Metern Tiefe. Dort haben wir auch keine Ursache von dem Erdfall gefunden oder für den Erdfall gefunden. Haben wir gesagt, okay, dann müssen wir hier wieder was tun.
And it was filled in, and it's a few years ago. And then our service company moved in here, and they used it as an office just a few weeks. And then the second sinkhole happened.
Predicting nature isn't easy, but if you're building in a sinkhole hotspot, surely building in the exact spot where a sinkhole has happened earlier is not a good sign.
It was very surprising because nobody expected that there will be a second sinkhole at the same place as the first sinkhole was.
With unstable ground making investigation dangerous, it's impossible to predict the cost of fixing the sinkhole, or even how to do it.
You can't really get to the hole with any large machines. That's too dangerous, so you can't really demolish it. So it's probably going to stand there and rot there for quite some time.
Any sort of groundwork takes masses of material, machines and muscle. And if you don't know how big the hole is, or if it's even safe to go near it, it's probably just best you leave it alone.
So there are no concrete plans to fill in the sinkhole because it's so huge that it would be very expensive to fill it in. We would need a lot of earth. And now nobody can use the buildings ever after again.
For now, engineers have no immediate answers to this natural disaster.
We are used to thinking that the Earth is, in our lifetime, a pretty static structure, but we can be faced with quite drastic changes on the surface and in our environment. The Nordhausen sinkhole made the whole structure unstable.
There is a lesson to be learned here. If you live in a sinkhole hotspot and you've already filled one in, just build in another place.
Construction calamities come in all shapes and sizes, from the shifty to the slippery, the useless to the wholly ridiculous. So long as we keep building, there will always be more mistakes to fix.